Hello. Hi, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me and see me and all of that. Hope everyone's good. Okay, so I'm finally doing this live, and I know that it took really long. I know there were a couple of postponements. I'm really sorry, but the good thing is that I think by now, by this time that I'm getting to this, a lot of you guys have already heard about this documentary. So there's not going to be a lot of spoilers for a lot of people, really. And you know, if you're on replay, please do leave comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you know what you thought when you watched this documentary. I know that it has a lot of people talking. So for those of you who don't know about this, it's called Unknown Number, and it's on Netflix. And I think the fair majority of you do know about it. I can see that it's. I think it was trending at some point fairly recently. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick recap just in case you haven't seen it yet. And there will be spoilers. So turn this off if you don't want spoilers, please. Okay. So Unknown Number by Netflix takes place in a really small town called Beale City in Michigan. And when the documentary starts, everyone who they speak to is very, very like eager to explain that this is a really small town. So I'm guessing it's really small. And with that, there's a really small school. And this entire story is centered around a young couple in high school. And their names are Lauren Licari and Owen McKenney. So I'm going to show you guys a picture. One sec. And just while I'm looking for this picture, these two were about 13 at the time of the story, 13 or 14. So that's how young this couple is. Okay, there we go. Can you guys, well, you'll let me know if you can see. So that is Lauren and Owen. And like I said, they were about 13. From everything that you can tell in this documentary, they really are like very sweet kids. And I mean, I know that they're young, but they do seem like very compatible, you know, like they were quite, even though they were that young, they were quite happy together. It seemed like, you know, it was just really sweet. Morning, ZJ. Thank you. Drive safe. Okay, so that is Owen and Lauren. And I have a few more pictures to show you guys. CJ, have you seen this documentary? Let me know if you're able. having a little bit of an issue sharing. Sorry, everyone. Okay. Anyway. Okay, so that's Owen. Just another picture. Haven't seen the doc, but I've seen the story on mainstream. Yeah, she really is. That's what the main reason that I wanted to do this episode or this live stream was, because I watched a lot of people, especially, psychologists and stuff, and they were, I don't know how to say it, but they were going really easy on the mom for what she did. And they were kind of trying to figure out what is wrong with her, what mental illness is causing this, and they were just trying to figure it out. And I was just thinking, I don't know if she's that interesting. I think that she's really just sick, like you say. And it's so unthinkable. Okay. Since I'm having a little bit of trouble screen sharing, I'm just gonna sorry, everyone. Okay, that's Lauren. And hopefully the pictures will work better from now on. So like I said, it's a documentary about these two kids, Lauren and Owen. And let me get back to my notes. So their families became really close by the time this story starts in October 2020. And by this point, they had been dating about a year. So I think they must have started seeing each other when they were about 12, I guess. Their parents were Kendra Licari, Sean Licari, Jill McKenney, and Dave McKenney. Now, I do have pictures, but I'm not sure if that's going to go so well. Let's see what happens. Hold on. And then what I really want to do for this live stream is, because, the majority of you know what happened, you know the story. I'm not going to go through what happened too much, but I want to go through particularly the mom, Kendra's statements from the end of the documentary. And I want to just look at those things that she said, because the way that she was trying to justify, sorry, my power just went out. The way that she was trying to justify these things was just, I don't know, unthinkable. The pictures are not working good. Okay. So, the story kind of picks up around the time of this annual Halloween party that's always thrown by this local family who's called the Weber family. And the Weber's daughter, Chloe, is very close with Owen. So Owen was obviously invited to this party, but Lauren was not invited. And Owen really wanted her to go with him, but she didn't seem like she got on with the rest of the girls in school, and she didn't seem like she was very social, which, some people are just like that. She was very interested in sport. They spoke to some other kids in the documentary, and they kind of were a little bit critical of how she mostly just wanted to talk about sports. So about 2 weeks before this Halloween party, Lauren and Owen received a text from an unknown number, which is, the whole point of the documentary, in a group chat. And what it said was something along the lines of, "Hi, Lauren, Owen is breaking up with you. He doesn't like you anymore. He hasn't for a long time." And then the texter said, "It's obvious he wants me. He laughs, he smiles, he touches my hair. Not sure what he's told you, but we're both going to the Halloween party and we are both DTF. You guys know what that means. You are a sweet girl, but I know I can give him what he wants. Sorry, not sorry. So those are the kind of messages that started this off. And Lauren and Owen kind of assumed that it was a joke, and they just ignored it, which seemed fine because the texts went away. And for almost a year, there was no issues. But in September of 2021, the text started again. And the reason that this date is kind of important is because the moment the perpetrator of this crime is caught, they say, I didn't start it. That was the first thing they say. They say that the earlier texts around the Halloween party, that wasn't me. I just picked up where somebody else left off. So the first thing I thought when I heard this was, well, that's bullshit. And I know that a lot of people agree. But what's interesting is that I went and got the court records, and it does allege the offenses as starting in September of 2021, which means that the documents are taking that, it seems. They're taking that as the truth, which I thought was interesting because I don't for a minute believe it was anybody else. But okay, so coming back to the texts resuming in 2021, as the texts went on, they became increasingly abusive towards Lauren. The texter targeted Lauren's appearance as well as her relationship with Owen, constantly indicating that Owen would rather be with them, the texter, as opposed to Lauren. The texter also insisted that Owen was cheating on Lauren with them, the texter, and they gave extreme detail about what they claimed to have done with Owen sexually. This was extremely graphic. It's like not something that I would ever be able to read on YouTube, not that I want to. But bear in mind that Lauren and Owen are only 13 or 14 at this time. So that's a whole other category of abuse, in my opinion. The text also criticized Lauren for the fact that she hasn't done all of these things, these described actions with Owen. And again, remember, she's only 13, so it's really abusive. The texts continue coming in about 40 or 50 a day. The kids did try and block the texter, but the text just got around that. They also tried calling the texter, who would just call back immediately after. Now, one time in particular, the texter referred to Lauren by her nickname Lo. And that was the first indication that this person was somebody that they knew. But beyond that, the texter started contacting Lauren just solely for the purpose of insulting her about things that she was wearing at that exact moment. There were comments about how she shouldn't wear leggings, etc. But none of this is as bad as it's about to get. So Lauren was definitely starting to feel insecure about these things, and she was second guessing herself in a whole lot of ways, which is actually really serious at her age. And Owen was also starting to suffer mentally from all of these texts. So I'm not sure at what point this happened, but at some point, all four parents were informed of the issue. And for those of you who know the outcome, yeah, the irony of that. The parents decided to involve the school. The school tried to investigate this. Bless them, they tried. I mean, they tried talking to the students. They did suspect that the person was somebody that, you know, had to know Lauren's nickname, but also had to know what she was wearing. So they assumed it was a student. And then they tried running their own little surveillance operation by checking the school cameras whenever she was receiving a text to see who was on their phones. And they tried. But about 13 months into all of this, Lauren and Owen broke up. And it seems that it was Owen's decision and that he wasn't really able to handle the pressure anymore. I don't blame him. At such a young age, you don't need that. Again, you would expect those texts would stop, but they did not. And remember earlier when I said that it was going to get worse, it started to get much worse because the texter started advising Lauren to end her own life. And the harassment eventually got so bad that the police were called to the school. Now, around this time, I think the texter probably started to get a little bit nervous about the fact that the police had been invited into the situation, unless what I'm about to tell you was always part of the plan, but I don't know. And just before I go on, for me, there's a lot of people, you know, online talking about how this was, you know, the perpetrator trying to get attention from Lauren and stuff like that. And what was it about? Was it about Lauren? Was it about Owen? And I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about this. But for me, what the texter did next shows that it was about Owen. And this is something that's overlooked. There's actually a lot of victims in this case. What the texter did was they started trying to frame another kid. And the other kid was Chloe Weber, the same one who was throwing that Halloween party. Now, when they talk to other students in the documentary, they do kind of imply that Owen and Chloe's relationship could have ventured into a little bit more than friends. And their relationship, just like Lauren and Owen's relationship, Chloe and Owen's relationship really started to suffer here. And for me, that is important. That is the person that this texter decided to try and pin all of this on, by so doing damaging his relationship with yet another girl. So, but I mean, Chloe seems quite smart. I know she did have a little bit of a history of bullying, but it didn't seem like it was anything very sophisticated. And she submitted her phone for a forensic download. Like, she just handed it over. And she's the child of law enforcement. She knew what to do. And she was immediately cleared. After that, the police suspected Owen's cousin, Adriana, but that, it wasn't her either. You guys already know who it was. But the texting continued, and the texts were coming through at all hours of the night, saying Owen cheated on Lauren, calling Lauren a waste. The kids were suffering. They really were. I mean, they weren't getting much sleep. It was really starting to get to them. And they speak to Jill, Owen's mom, who was really quite worried. And the police were really lost in this. So in April 2022, they involved the FBI, who did phone extractions. In the beginning, that didn't help. But in the meantime, Owen met somebody new and started seeing this girl. Now, she was from a completely different area. And pretty soon, her mom, this new girl's mom, started receiving texts saying that Owen's new girlfriend must back off and that Owen was theirs, being the texter. So again, this was about Owen. As sick as that is, the FBI made progress so long, and they started narrowing in on a specific phone number linked to an IP address. And I know you guys know, but for those of you who don't, the phone number belonged to Kendra Licari, who is Lauren's mother. So to reiterate, the person who was torturing Lauren and catfishing her for over a year was her mother. Almost 2 years, actually. So the police took their search warrant and they confronted Kendra about this, and the documentary shows the body cam. And it is one of the weirdest things I've seen on body cam. Some of it, it's the weirdest, like the weirdest stuff. It looks like it could be nothing, but I'm hoping that somebody will eventually put the body cam on YouTube, because I obviously can't just take stuff from Netflix. But in the body cam, we see Kendra confess to some of the messages, but not the earlier messages, which again, I think that's bullshit, but who am I to say? She says she didn't start it, but in her words, she fed off it some. And she tried, this is interesting. Like, I don't understand how people still feel sorry for her. She tried to convince the police officer to not let this information get out. I don't know. I don't know if she's fully in touch with what was happening. He explained that would be impossible and unethical. And she was asked about having any other devices, and she flat out lied to the police. She just said that she had a laptop on the porch. But we'll find out later that she's got a bunch of phones. So again, for the people who have done videos where they're trying to understand her and they're trying to say, but she immediately told the truth. She didn't. She didn't. We don't know about the earlier texts, but she definitely lied about how many phones she had. So how can you trust that? And then in the same body cam, she's saying she didn't start it. But something that I did find really interesting about this was that when the officer offered to tell Lauren, what had been going on, Kendra didn't really seem to want to talk didn't want him to talk with her about it. And she suggested that Lauren just come in the room because she wanted to be present. And following from this, Lauren, I mean, she came in the room and the policeman spoke to her about what was happening, what had happened, and it was really vague. But Kendra was all over her daughter. It was not something that I would describe as like normal or healthy. She was like hanging on her. So I know that that's also something that a lot of people have brought up. And I want to show you guys. Well, I'm going to try and show you a picture. Yeah, there we go. So that's how Lauren had to find out. Like, she had to be informed of what was going on with the perpetrator on her back, right? Like, that's the time you kind of want space. But I don't know, I just found this part really interesting. It was like she was smothering her or something. And this could point to a number of things, like Kendra's boundary issues or control issues or whatever. I'm not a psychologist. But I think it also relates to the fact that Kendra can't handle that moment of Lauren being told being fully about Lauren. So there's other parts of the documentary later on when they speak to Kendra's cousin. I think her name's Melissa, but it might not be. She described Kendra as very self-centered. And she said that if Kendra were in the room at that point while she was being interviewed, she would probably start dancing in order to redirect the attention onto herself and off Melissa being interviewed. And that's really important to me because I think that's actually what's happening here. I think that this is a really big moment for Lauren because she's getting confirmation on who's been torturing her for months, and it's really not good news. And Kendra is so desperate to take over that moment and even take that moment away from her that she can't even see that this is probably a moment where Lauren would need some space. I'm not sure what you guys think. Let me know. So again, I know a lot of people have come out and said this is weird because Kendra seems like a good mom. And unfortunately, I don't think that's true. I think she's showing here that she can't even really think about her daughter's needs if there's an opportunity for attention. So combined with these inappropriate feelings for Owen, I kind of see what drove her to do all of this. Again, I'm not a psychologist, but this person is really not well. So as you can see here, Lauren seemed very dazed and emotionless when she was told about this. And I've seen a lot of comments, about her reaction or lack thereof, and people are trying to say that she was involved in this whole thing, which I really don't think is the case. I think that, when they spoke to other students in the documentary, these students did imply that Lauren was that way. And I think that's significant, like she's been emotionally isolated. Again, I'm not a psychologist. So after all of this happening, the policeman involves Sean, who is Lauren's father, and this is also captured on body cam. Sean is extremely angry, but he doesn't seem completely surprised, in my opinion. And he's the one who informed the police that Kendra had multiple phones, which she already lied about. So the documentary shows, the interaction between all of them, and I don't know how that all played out, among the family. And of course, they do continue to speak to everyone involved. I get the impression that this isn't the first time that Lauren has been kind of used by Kendra during an issue or a disagreement with Sean. And then, the worst part of this is that when Sean tells Kendra that he thinks she needs to leave, she says that she can't leave Lauren. So again, I'd say in general, she's just being very selfish. She's not really thinking about what Lauren needs. So Kendra was arrested and pled guilty to her charges, which included 2 counts of stalking a minor. She cried a lot at sentencing, and she said a lot of what happened was due to childhood trauma, and she spoke about an assault that she went through when she was 17. And she claims that she didn't really want Lauren to grow up. Regardless, she was sentenced to 19 months, which is less than the amount of time that she spent torturing her child. So, like I said, a lot of people have speculated on Kendra's motive for all of this abuse. And some people say that it's cyber Munchausen syndrome by proxy. And they further speculate that she enjoyed the fact that Lauren needed her and came home and she was upset about all of the messages. And I just don't think that was the case. So if you guys want a really good analysis of all of this, I'd suggest watching Hidden True Crime. They have a really good video on it, and they kind of get to the core of the issue. I don't think that it's something like cyber Munchausen syndrome by proxy. I can't say it. Okay. What I wanted to quickly do, because I did say this was going to be a super quick live, is go through Kendra's statements from the documentary. And I've kind of broken them down into a few sentences, and I just want to hear what you guys think about it. And that's pretty much it. So, and thank you for joining. I know that it's really early for you guys, and I know that it's been a really busy couple of days in terms of news. So I'm sure you guys are exhausted. Okay. So I just typed out what she said. I typed out some of her quotes because I think they're ridiculous. And I wanted to know what you guys thought. Okay. So when she was talking about what she did, Kendra Licari said the following: "Every single one of us makes mistakes. Not a single one of us has lived a perfect life." Okay, so that is true. But then it starts getting out of hand from here. She says, "And realistically, a lot of us have probably broke the law at some point or another and not got caught." Okay. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm sure people drove drunk and haven't been caught, right? I don't know. I haven't. But again, if you get caught, you're in the same situation I'm in, but for a different thing. That she actually said that. She tried to make that comparison. Okay, so I do feel that people lose sight of that. I don't think that there's anything real to lose sight of. I think she's just making it up. I know to some I'm a headline, I'm a villain, I'm a bad mom, I'm a whatever. I think that you're a child sexual abuser, but that's because they know one little piece of my story. They don't know my whole story. So I think with these last two lines, what she is trying to get to is this thing that she's come up with, where she kind of points to her own background and abuse and trauma as a reason for the things that she's done. But logically, she's misunderstanding what she did with why she did it. Nobody actually cares why she did it. The point is that she did. It doesn't make her any less of a headline villain or bad mom, right? So the reasoning, like the consequence, matters. That's what I think. But I mean, if you guys have an opinion on that, let me know. If you think I'm being too harsh, let me know. Okay, so here's another one. She says, "In my mind, I'm like, how long do we let this go on?" Because, okay, so she's presupposing that we believe that she didn't start it. So let's just, accept that for a minute. What do I do as a parent? Honestly, the best way would have been to stop it by shutting her cell phone down, right? Or shutting your cell phone down. But then I was like, why should I have to do that? Why should I have to get her a new phone? Like, because of someone else's actions. I really wanted to get to the bottom of who it was. Okay, so she was doing an investigation into who it was. And that's when I started sending the text messages to Lauren and Owen. I was sending the messages in the hopes that maybe they would send back asking, is this somebody or is this so-and-so? Just to kind of give me something, right? And then also hoping that maybe as they talked about the messages amongst their friend groups and stuff, that something might come up that could help pinpoint, where they were originating from. I started in the thoughts of we need some answers, and then it just kept going. It was a spiral, kind of a snowball effect. I don't think I knew how to stop. I was somebody different in those moments. I was in an awful place mentally. It was like I had a mask on or something. I don't even know who I was. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments, because I don't know. I feel like from my perspective, I would have felt a little bit sorry for her where she's like pouring her heart out like this if she had at some point at least acknowledged the damage she did, which she never seems to do. I mean, she explains that she didn't know what she was doing or why, but she never actually says, I feel terrible. I've damaged my own daughter, amongst other children. Okay, so here's another quote. She says, I think it was more of an escape. It took me kind of out of real life in a sense, even though it was real life. So when I was really doing that, I wasn't myself. It removed me from my everyday life. Lauren knows she's petite, she knows she's small, she knows she's thin. So I might have picked up on some of her insecurities. And those are the ones that I thought were pretty much just the most important when it comes to people who want to kind of defend the situation. But then at the same time, look, I don't know anything about other people's trauma, and I wouldn't know. I just think that for her mind to go to the place that it went to be able to send those messages, especially about Owen, I don't think that that's excusable with trauma or something like that, because it went on for long enough for her to be able to stop. And when she wanted to stop, instead of actually trying to, it seems like she just tried to frame another child, which, I mean, that's a crime in itself, shouldn't it be? I think. Anyway, that is literally all I wanted to go through with you guys. I just really wanted to give my thoughts on this documentary because some of the things that I've been seeing people say, it's a little bit too much. So this is my short little live. And I just wanted to thank you guys who were here. And for those of you who are watching on replay, please do let me know what you think. And thank you so much for watching. I hope that you guys all have a beautiful day further, and watch the documentary if you haven't. Stay safe, everyone.